Good morning. It's Tony Dattino, founder of the USA Memory Championship, and we continue to move along towards the qualifying rounds for our 27th event. And as I continue to read and find articles in my reading material, so anyways, from the Harvard newsletters to the New Scientist magazines, I've come across a really good one here in the Men's Health Advisor that is put out by Cleveland Clinic. And I started on Monday and just found that this article was so powerful that I wanted to break it up into several parts. And I'm likely to do another section on it, but I wanted to at least keep it going because it talks about a survey that was recently done about different impacts to your memory and focus. And one of the things I say to people, you have to be focused on when you put something into your brain that you then eventually want to keep and eventually take out. So I use an example that I see so often, and I see this with people in parking lots, especially here at Universal Studios and at Disney. As much as they try to help you remember where you parked your car, I still see people at the end of the day wondering, what garage did I park in? What field did I park in? And some of their parking lots are just massive. I mean, they get thousands of people every day. Their parking lots are huge. And the first thing I always say to people is, if you want to remember where you parked your car, then when you park it, you have to be intentional about what you want to note as to where your car is parked. And this can't be, well, it's by a tree, because there's lots of trees in parking lots there. If it's in a garage level, the garages over at Universal have multiple stories of garages, multiple levels for parking your car. They have different sections in buildings, so they try to give it a character name and a floor name and aisle names. And so if you're parking your car and the first thing you do is trying to rush to the main gate to try to get into the park, and then get in the park and say, well, let me stop and think about where I parked my car, not a good idea. So this article here really stressed about you need to have focus in order to keep and retain information that's important to you. So it talks about a recent survey done at Ohio State University of adult correspondents that are having no trouble or having no trouble with their attention, but those that are having some problems with it. And so among the survey, 43% attributed attention problems to stress and anxiety. So here's one, stress. When we're in a stressful mode, our brain creates what we call pattern interrupts, meaning I'm trying to stay focused on something, but I'm stressed because something's got my body tensed up, and there's a phone call that comes in, or I see something that distracts me. I'm trying to multitask, I'm doing something, but I find my body getting into a stressed state. And I'm anxious about a presentation I'm doing, I'm anxious about getting home on time, I'm anxious about how the kids are doing, I'm anxious about a boss that I'm working for. And so 43% of the people in this survey found that they have a difficulty with focus because of a level of stress and anxiety. 39% have a lack of sleep. And boy, if sleep is not a challenge and a problem, I am seeing more and more reports about the importance of sleep and how many hours should we get. It's, when you get up in the morning, you feel you're tired and you're not well rested. You feel like, my God, I got the alarm, it had to wake me up. First thing I always ask people is, what do you do, how do you get yourself up in the morning? And they kind of look at me like, well, do you need an alarm clock, or do you just naturally wake up at a certain time feeling that you've had a good night's sleep? And so we see more and more about sleep disorders, insomnia, people that are not getting a full night's sleep. And obviously, if you're tired and you're not getting a good night's rest, it's going to impact your ability to focus and to stay in a moment, especially if you're in problem-solving mode or you're in learning mode. So I was working with students at universities. It's always been interesting when they do this cramming for an exam. and they just can't wait to get the exam and get it done. And that help them if something causes them to miss the exam or postpone it, and they just cram. Within 2 days, they've kind of lost 80% of what it was that they were trying to cram for. So cramming is not good if it's making you tired. So I always tell people, you need to take hourly breaks when you're trying to remember and learn something, or you need to stay focused on what you're trying to put into your memory. And so how do you spark those lessons to stay inside your memory? You got to give yourself breaks, and you can't do it when you're exhausted. And that's where a lot of accidents. I always remember doing work in New York City in the subway authority. They found that people that were working extra shifts tended to have more accidents, more injuries, because they lost their focus on a critical time or a critical moment. And sometimes when you're working with subway trains, people can die or get killed by the train unexpectedly because they lost focus of where they were and what they were working on. How about smartphones? Oh my goodness, a third of the people that were surveyed here in terms of losing focus find that their smartphones. I mean, I know when I hear a ding on a phone, my phone, for example, it's like almost in that minute, like, do I need to go see it, or can I stay with what I'm doing? If I'm doing a live with Tony, and my phone dings, I'm like, wait a minute. Let me go over and get it. And I say, whoa, this is crazy. These are supposed to help us be more efficient. Instead, there are many, many times that they're helping us be deficient. And so in the survey they did, 35% of distractions where people lost their focus were due to smartphones. So here's what's important in terms of what the article is really coming down to. Focus draining factors include being bored. I'm just kind of ahead of it today and just not interested in going about. I could be having a lack of interest in the topic. So one thing that's always important is this important? I always say that. Is this something important to you that you want to retain, you want to remember, you want to solve a problem or situation? Physical inactivity. I'm just kind of couch potatoing. I'm not really doing much of anything. I just want to sit down and be lazy. Well, your brain's going to be lazy in what you're trying to remember. Multitasking, boy, we could go on with that one forever and ever. That more and more studies have found that when you're multitasking, you're dividing your brain into sections, and therefore you're going to remember less of each on the multitasking that you're doing. A diet, and a diet has, people don't realize that diets have a lot to do with what goes on in the firing of neurons that connect to other brain cells. And then, of course, dehydration. I've got to remind myself sometimes how to stay hydrated, because the hydration in your body is what helps keeps your brain, along with the blood flow that you've got in your brain. So Dr. Barnett Jackson, here from the Cleveland Clinic, talks about not focusing and paying attention. You will not be able to encode information to remember. Your memory will be infected. So it means encoding. So what do we mean when he says we're going to encode? How do I take information in through my eyes, through my talking with someone, through what I hear, through what I see, maybe even a smell, something I'm talking about? How do we consciously encode that into our brains? So what are some of the skills and the techniques that our mental athletes learned in the USA Memory Championship that help them encode digit numbers, names and faces, lists of things that they've got to do, reading poetry and passage and things of that, comprehension of information. So what are they doing to help remember things that are important to long-term, how they want to retain it for a while? You're probably not going to be able to process visual information around you or visual spatial skills if you're affected, if you're not focusing and being conscious in that mindset, if you're not in that moment. And this gets involved, I would say something happens, boom, an accident happens, or something quick goes by you and you weren't focused on it, and then you're being asked, can you recall what you just saw, the color of the car, the people, And it's always interesting when you talk to detectives and people about one of the concerns they have are people are able to retain and recall information of something they've just seen. Maybe it's a burglary or robbery or an address or a color or something or the size of a person and how much goes out of that. So basically says if it's out of whack, meaning you will find that you don't focus on these things and you haven't focused on the words, you haven't focused on what you've seen, then you've not encoded it, and therefore you need to learn some techniques which we have in our Maximum Memory Mastery course on how do you maintain and build skills that help you to recall information that's important to you. And I have one more section in this particular article to go through, which I will do on Friday. It's just been an excellent, excellent article. And this is put out by Men's Health Advisor of the Cleveland Clinic. And I just have found it to be really, really helpful in terms of really laying out the issues of memory in a very logical, sensible way. Our challenge is, okay, so we understand all these things, now what do we do about it? So with that, we're midweek here. Have a good week and the rest of your week, and we'll see you back here on Friday. And be well.